Couldn't be better. I did them a job interview. Good for you. He gave instructor challenges, but they couldn't make head of them. You can't do things at one time. It's out of the question. Do them one by one. Bob, don't disturb her. Mind your own business, he whispered. If he persists bothering her like that, she'll lose her temper. He was so excited that he could resist temptation. Stop making a fuss. It really gets on my nerves, she shouted. There's no point in talking back to Nick. He's a dictator, so to speak. They're very polite in his presence, but actually, they always talk back about it behind his back. You defend Nick, don't you? On the contrary, I look after him. His constant insults aroused her anger. I'm fed up with Jeffrey shopping paper with pouring coffee. I made up my mind to quit. In reality, many people have difficulty making ends meet. How can I get by on 100,000 a month? Female classmates will complain about their routines, which are not challenging at all. Thanks to fundamental restructuring, our surplus swelled threefold. Many people today think of loyalty to company as an absurd notion. I have to commute all the way from the distant suburb. I'm sick of it. I went to spend the rest of my life to pursuing my ideals. After retirement, Teresa devoted herself to caring for orphans. For the sake of the children in need, we cooperate to collect donations. The charity named after a man who gave away some 2 billion yen. His autobiography was released today and sold out by noon. Ted, who is often referred as a man of integrity, is going to be Lone Mayor. Cabinet does not disappoint the outcome of the election. The municipal council should concentrate on specific issues. This is the case of those who live on a pension are forced to lead a hard life. We should believe this data is far from accurate. We tend to associate politicians with hypocrisy. They are primarily concerned with exploiting us, not with enhancing our living standards. The man must be exerted the dominant influence on the Conservative Party. Now his power is diminishing. So Focus was refused to make any comment, saying it's under investigation. The police said someone pulling strings behind the scenes. The executive entertained bureaucrat at Lotte or exclusive Japanese restaurant, hoping to something in return. His secretary flatly denied leaking any confidential information. No one dared to contradict his or her employer for fear of being fired. They sacrificed his promising career to retain his dignity. I might as well leave myself, reconcile to my fate. He was about to commit suicide by swallowing poison when he thought better of it. The vague rumor proved to be false. Nevertheless, some skepticism lingers on. As senior official is subject to accepting bribes from the company, but there isn't sufficient evidence to arrest him. Jason, who was in charge of the project, is dismissed for corruption. To my knowledge, he is not involved in the fraud scheme. They found out the truth while examining a pile of relevant documents. During the trial, it came to light that they had been covering up illegal transactions for decades. Detective took down his testimony on the spot, word for word. For the first time in my life, I felt a pang of conscience, but there was no other way out. I'm still haunted by a vivid nightmare I had last night. By and large, reporters don't hesitate to intrude on one's privacy. The author reverts his manuscript over and over again. His second now when he comes to finding fault with others. On the whole, the elite are not sensitive to criticism. When a tabloid revealed that he was a drug addict, his reputation was all but ruined. They considered research from the defense program and pointed out numerous flaws. We will not tolerate anyone who engages in terrorism. The notorious rebel was ultimately captured and confined to jail. The rebels were swiftly called in put down the riot. We should appeal to reason instead of resorting to violence. I suggest we adopt flexible tactics for the moment. The armed forces succeeded in occupying the entire territory. Under the circumstances, the enemy had no choice but to surrender. They can't hold out any longer. Sooner or later, the hostages will be set free. Under the name of tyranny, innocent people are deprived of their citizenship. Some soldiers reluctant to obey the command. His regime was bound to collapse. The Allies condemned the invasion of the violation of UN resolutions. We cannot rule out the possibility of the civil war breakout in that country. The colony declared independence and became a republic. An immense monument was erected in honor of a noble patriot that got on his knees and prayed for the souls of the deceased. The Supreme Court is located near the Imperial Palace. The protest group protested against a ban on abortion. Senator Ford remained neutral in the bitter controversy. Ford has been in a difficult situation all week long. He is no longer capable of coping with it. The Sun talks about the broadcast simultaneously throughout the world. Diplomatic helped put an end of the conflict. Johnson was appointed as goodwill ambassador to foster mutual understanding between the two nations. The special political international tension will build up. In my opinion, permanent peace is nothing but an illusion. Ethnic minorities struggle against prejudice, poverty, and oppression. We must make effort to aware of discrimination. The immigrants have endured the physical and mental pain. They meant it rejected. It, it didn't take racial diversity into account. Needless to say, the refugees are longing for freedom. According to a survey, 3 in 5 people today are indifferent foreign affairs. What will become of Japan-US relations if the security treaty expires? Unless Japan limits at its unfair tariffs, the US will impose sanctions. Trade friction might arise between the two nations at any moment. At our top priority to settle this dispute once and for all, so we are ready to meet them halfway. Federal was narrowly approved by Congress. He argues that administration must look for alternative sources of revenue. Our proposal that the overwhelming majority are favorable of the legislation. The cops are searching for clues to the brutal murder. Man must be insane. He can't distinguish vice from virtue. The fingerprint left on the weapon correspond with the suspect. It took us all by surprise when the noted psychologist was accused of kidnapping. The jury guilty verdict gave rise to a widespread debate. The man pleaded for mercy, that he was sentenced to 20 years prison in his crime. A officer on duty perceived an elderly man becoming up behind him. The cop sight of the sheep attempting break into the house. The day before yesterday, they witnessed a weird incident in the wilderness. I became aware of someone staring at me from across the aisle, so I turned around. But there was no one in sight. She screamed horror. Someone took hold of her arm. Informed of her safety, he breathed a sigh of relief. The bullet went to his chest, leaving him in a critical condition. At present, it is still uncertain whether done deliberately or by accident. The delicate fire burned down, leaving a heap of ashes. All of a sudden, the fireworks warehouse exploded and they took 2 days to put out the blaze. A bomb went off in the 30-story building, but more than 50 people were seriously wounded. A cargo vessel bound for Athens sank in the Mediterranean without a trace. The Dextron froze to death during the expedition to the Antarctic. The tragedy must be remembered so as not to be repeated. The expedition provides profound insight into ancient civilization. Giotto is credited with sowing the seeds to the Italian Renaissance, formatted a portrait in a fancy frame, but it was upside down. This magnificent cathedral dates back to the Middle Ages. Age and literature inspired him to create splendid sculptures. They explored the desert in search of the buried treasure. The mirror instead of acquiring the masterpiece, no matter how much it cost. Myths and legends should be handed down from generation to generation. The language is fluent in several Chinese dialects. The tribe worships its ancestors and speaks its own language, which is not familiar to us. The anthropologist says the old customs still prevail in the province. The wicked cast an evil spell on the man and turned him into a bag. They proceeded along a steep path, which was sole access to the border. When a big ape emerged from the cave, they got frightened, ran away. Believe it or not, I saw an alien, and they vanished. Give me a break.